So today we are talking about flowers again. This is the kind of the part two of flowers, and in particular the tulip will get a good shout out. So I'm wearing this. I think it's kind of tulips. I think it's tulips. I'm in my head it's tulips anyway. So last Thursday, I finished with this painting by a female artist called Rachel Roysch. So female artist is quite unusual to begin with. She was from the Netherlands, we now call the Netherlands, and she was incredibly by the way, female artists unusual, that's a whole other story, and I think perhaps I'll do another live all about female artists and their struggles. But she was obviously very proficient. She was 17th century artist, and her works sold more, she specialised in flowers, and her works sold more very often than Rembrandt's portraits at the time. So that's just kind of to give you some kind of perspective, some kind of idea as to how well she did. So this painting is actually very early 18th century. It's about 1716, and it's in the National Gallery. And it's one of many Dutch flower paintings in the National Gallery. Now, I was saying last time that flowers, that the Netherlands in the 17th century was awash with money. There was almost an embarrassment of riches, and so luxury goods were a huge market. Now, flowers were expensive, but not only that, so they were also they are, of course, beautiful. They're all different, they're all individual, they smell fantastic, and they don't last very long at all. So in this kind of crazy world of the Netherlands in the 17th century, anything like flowers was absolutely ripe for sort of fetishizing. To fetish. That's another thing that I practiced saying, it just didn't come out, did it? As a commodity. So they were a commodity, basically, and very sought after. So then marry, I can't say it again now, fetishize. So if you marry then flowers with the buoyant 17th century art market in the Netherlands, you've got a match made in heaven, and so therefore paintings of flowers were incredibly popular. Now, you might well notice that I am no horticulturalist, believe me. I don't even really have green fingers, but if you do know a little thing or two about flowers, then you might think, well, hang on a minute, this is a bit strange, because these flowers don't all actually bloom at the same time. And I believe that you would be right, which suggests kind of a couple of things. It suggests very definitely that this was not painted from life, so she did not have a vase of flowers to paint in front of her. What she actually did was, when a flower was in bloom, she would very carefully copy it into a notebook. I mean, you can see they're really exquisitely painted and very, very detailed. And if you know your flowers, you'll absolutely be able to point out what is what within this bouquet. So she would have her notebook, a sketchbook, and draw flowers when they're in season, and then bring them all together in a composition whenever she was ready to paint. So then that also suggests that this work is not quite, but very much curated. So she has placed flowers exactly where she wants to place them, to lead our eye where she wants our eye to be led, and perhaps to suggest some kind of meaning for this work of art. As I mentioned last week, Dutch works of art, or works of art in 17th century Netherlands, are seldom just what you see on the surface. There's nearly always some kind of deeper meaning in them somewhere. So to look at this painting, I think the eye is drawn first of all to this big red peony in the centre. And then maybe you would sort of wend your way up from the red peony perhaps to this red rosebud, which is quite small, but its really vibrant colour draws our attention. And so what Royce is doing here is she's using colour theory. Red is a warm colour, so anything red in a painting is really going to jump out and literally, but it's going to grab your attention. Whereas blues or greens are cool colours, and so therefore they recede. So she's drawing our eye with this red. So from this peony, you work your way up to this little red rosebud, and then to this tulip, at the single tulip at the apex of this composition. Working down, then there's another red peony, and that leads you down to the base of the composition, which is this rather exuberant sprig of honeysuckle. So our eye is being led in a sort of S shape around this bouquet of flowers. So honeysuckle on the bottom and tulip on the top. Is that significant? I think it might be. We're going in with the tulips. So tulips, very, very important flowers in so many ways in the Netherlands in the 17th century. And I'm going to talk about tulips through this painting here, which is a painting that was completed, and don't worry, I have got some close-ups, that was completed in the 1640. And it's by Jan Bruegel the Younger. And yes, if you're squinting at your screen thinking, I think I can see a whole load of monkeys in this painting, you would be absolutely right. It's full of monkeys. It's a satirical take on something that happened in the 1630s in the Netherlands that is now called Tulip Mania. So it contains a lot of monkeys, also contains quite a lot of tulips. So this is a detail from the lower left corner of the painting, and you can see there's quite a lovely little patch of tulips in the bottom left corner, and there is a monkey pointing. Let's just see whether I can so there's a monkey right in the centre of this detail that is pointing to this patch of tulips with a cane, and then further to the centre of the painting, so there you can see on the very left hand side the monkey who's pointing to the tulips with a cane, and then further to the left hand side, further to the centre, you've got a monkey standing with a tulip in one hand and a bag of money in the other hand. I think I might be obscuring the bag of money. You've got a monkey, a couple of monkeys shaking hands, and you've got a monkey in the foreground writing something down. So basically this is all tulips being bought and sold. So the monkey in the centre is saying, yeah, I'm buying and selling tulips, I'm making money, this is fantastic. The monkey at the front, who is writing in this ledger, he's writing out a bill of sale, and he's got something on his shoulder, which is rather odd in this context. This is an owl on his shoulder. Now, we met owls back when we were talking about Athena, well, one specific owl when we were talking about Athena, and in the context of Athena, the owl was a symbol of wisdom. Well, the owl is still a symbol of wisdom, but here, because plainly this is daylight rather than a nocturnal scene, the owl has the converse meaning. So the owl here, instead of meaning wisdom, means stupidity. And this was born of the fact that it was believed that owls couldn't see in daylight, they could only see in the dark. I don't think that's entirely true. So here, this owl on his shoulder is a symbol of stupidity, kind of thing, indicating that something isn't maybe quite right. What have we got here? Nope, I'm just going to go back to this one. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you've also got a monkey. He's a very upper-class monkey. He has a sword at his waist, who is peering at this patch of tulips, again with a big piece of paper. And what he's doing is he's checking out rare varieties of tulip. Now, tulips came to the Netherlands from Turkey in the 15th or 16th century. And the Turks, if they saw a tulip that had striped petals, would probably just get rid of it straight away. And the reason that they would do that was because that meant that the tulip was diseased. So stripes, the variegated varieties essentially were diseased. And the Turks weren't interested in them because they didn't last as long. But of course, in this febrile, crazy market that was developing in the Netherlands, anything that didn't last as long was even more rare, and so therefore even more coveted and therefore more expensive. So this monkey down in the bottom left-hand corner here is just checking out his rare breeds. So the market was buoyant. People made a lot of money. So here we have a monkey he's got it's quite hard to see, but he's got some weighing scales in his hand. So he's just been digging up bulbs, and they were sold by weight sometimes as well. And then behind him you have a couple of monkeys sitting at this table with a lovely red tablecloth, counting all the money that they've made. And then you have monkeys up on the veranda, this is over to the left-hand side of the painting, all having a very jolly lunch. Obviously, they have made their money, and they're having some kind of luxurious lunch, not even a celebration, but as a de rigueur. God, do you remember those times when we were allowed out for lunch? Oh, they'll be back soon, don't worry. So this, of course, was always probably going to get out of hand, and it did start to get out of hand, mostly, I think, because tulips from seed take a very, very long time to grow. And so demand started to outstrip supply, and a futures market was born. People started to speculate that the seeds and then the bulbs in the ground would be worth more money later on, and so they would buy and they would sell, and huge amounts were made. Can you see and crazy things were happening. Sorry, I'm squinting at my screen because these are all quite small. Can you see just above the patch of tulips that there's a column, and there's a monkey sitting on the column, just going up to the base of the steps going up to the veranda? Well, he is sitting and he's eating something, and I think this probably refers to an incident that happened at the height of Tulip Mania, which was when some poor fisherman, I think it was settling down with his pickled herring sandwich, and what he thought was an onion, and actually he gobbled up with his pickled herring sandwich a very, very rare tulip bulb. and was caught doing it. Of course, he didn't know he was doing anything wrong, but was caught doing it and was actually charged and was sent to prison for committing a crime. So this is kind of how crazy things got until they got completely out of hand, and a very rare breed of tulip called a Semper Augustus sold for the price of a house. And when I say the price of a house, I don't just mean a kind of a sort of a hovel in an undesirable area that you probably wouldn't want to live in. I mean a really nice house with a driveway and a garage for your carriage. So of course this was unsustainable, and the whole thing exploded and went bust, and the world experienced its first financial bubble and boom and bust. So then on the other side of this painting we have here we go, what's a sort of red structure, which is supposed to be a courthouse, and you can see there's a couple of monkeys that are being driven into the courthouse because they clearly haven't paid their debts. They're going to be standing in front of the magistrate explaining themselves. There's another monkey that's already in court, who has a really massive white hanky that he's holding up to his face, and he's weeping unconsolably into this hanky because he's probably lost all his money. In the background there you can see a funeral procession, so people killed themselves because they lost absolutely everything. But I think the monkey in the foreground here, which I really hope you can see, he's to the bottom right hand side of the painting. He is actually peeing on his now worthless tulips. So that sums up the whole thing. So in this context, tulips, even still by the early 18th century, had quite they pushed buttons, shall we say, in the society, in the Dutch society, and so I think that probably included in this work, we've got the idea of hubris. The honeysuckle that is to the base of this composition is a flower that is very much associated with fidelity and with stability and with loyalty. So you've got this at the base of the composition. This is kind of we should be grounding ourselves with these principles, and then as you work your way up via these lovely red flowers, you've got this gorgeous tulip at the top, which, by the way, is none other than a Semper Augustus, just to ram this message home. And so it's like, just be careful that you don't overstretch yourself. And this with the idea that flowers are ephemeral, life is ephemeral. So it's sort of also, I think, connecting our natural life cycle with this crazy boom and bust. But certainly if you see tulips in compositions, particularly when they're kind of standing up sort of by themselves, a little bit isolated, then this is a bit of a warning to be aware of hubris. So maybe it was timely, because maybe people were beginning to forget quite how crazy things got. So I'm going to turn pictures off, turn comments on. Oops, no, I've forgotten to turn pictures off. There we go. Having fun, turn on commenting. There we go. So there's tulips for you. Who knew? Well, lots of people knew about the Tulip Mania, I think. And I was reading just the other day how much obviously the bulb trade and the flower trade is suffering. So now would be the time if you were going to go and see the bulb fields in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Oh, you can't hear me. Can everybody hear me? There we go. Can you let me know if you can hear me? I hope you can hear me. Oh, good. Yeah, so bulb fields in Amsterdam, now would be the time to go and see them if we could. Absolutely glorious. So Kirkenhof, big gardens. I think they've got some pictures, images on the internet. But of course, they can't get rid of these flowers at the moment. People aren't buying them. They can't export, and so thousands upon thousands of bulbs and flowers are being destroyed. They had a little slogan going on that you shouldn't stockpile toilet paper. You should stockpile flowers instead. So yes, not going to be a boom and bust. It might just be a bit more of a bust without the boom, which is a terrible shame. So we've got a few people just joining. Well, I hope that means that you were joining kind of throughout the conversation, because we are about to finish now. I don't know what I'm going to do next week, actually. I'm toying with the idea, maybe just sticking with the Dutch theme a little bit of doing Rembrandt. So very different, you know what? So Rembrandt, you had the whole Dutch genre painting, so something, you know, like Vermeer that we were looking at earlier this week, you know, and a lot of Dutch artists followed suit to another ugly painting. But Rembrandt was the maverick. He was the one that did things differently, didn't quite follow the trend. So I might do a Rembrandt, do another ugly painting. If you've got any more suggestions for ugly paintings, then I might do another one. But I don't know. No, but I'm definitely tending towards Rembrandt at the moment. So I might put up a couple of choices. How about that? I'll put up a couple of choices. Have a great day, everybody. I think the sun is coming out. April is nearly over. So, Rembrandt on BBC4 has a tour of young Rembrandt. Oh, that'd be interesting. Fantastic artist, Rembrandt. Well, most of the artists that I talk about are fantastic because they've stood the test of time. So yes, I'll have a look at that. Okay, have a good day, everybody. I will look forward to chatting with you again on Monday. In the meantime, the final episode of Patient Griselda will be posted on Saturday. And yes, working on more pepped up by paintings as well. See you soon. Bye.